Good morning, everyone. It's funny how you don't realize how much you've missed the people until you actually then find that you have missed them. So, I was looking forward to a live broadcast this morning. One technical issue has cascaded onto the other one, which has cascaded onto the other one. A couple of friends who own studios have offered me space to come and be pre-recording or even broadcasting live on Sunday mornings. But I've generally treated these like this is me, you talking to ourselves, and I've not treated their offers with any seriousness. But I'm now realizing that perhaps I've been a tad too negligent the way I've treated our interactions because I did pre-record the today's sermon as I've been wont to do in recent times, and I got a message this morning from my assistant that she didn't get. Oh no! What happened was the audio went mute at about the sixth minute of a 25-minute recording. So when I got that message this morning, I asked her to put up a post telling you I'll come live because I figured, well, it was an opportunity to reacquaint myself with the vibrancy of a live recording. I love it, I've missed you guys. So I was looking forward to that. But problem now is I had to deal with the technical detail of broadcasting live with the absence of my assistant, and I know next to nothing about using all these modern age gadgets and stuffs. I'm a Luddite, you may say that. So I've had to improvise. In the absence of a capacity to broadcast live to you, I've decided I'll simply record instead of going on frustrated. So I'll just record and yeah, we'll post this later on today. So it's not the live recording I'd looked forward to having, or rather, not the live broadcast I looked forward to having, but I'm sure we'll find a way to enjoy ourselves if it is possible to enjoy the bitter truth that we would have to tell ourselves this morning. You know, the Yorubas have this proverb. They say, tí ọmọ ìyá méjì bá wọlé tó bára wọn sọ̀rọ̀ tán rẹ́rìn jáde wọn bára wọn sọ̀tọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀. When two brothers or siblings, when siblings enter a room and come out smiling, it must be because they have been lacking in telling each other the truth. I have believed for a long time that the only absolute weapon by which you might slay the Nigerian monster, the monster of injustice, inequity, wickedness, evil, is the truth. So I've held it as a primary weapon and I've believed in its potency in dealing with the Nigerian situation. So this morning, I'm bringing to you once again bitter truths. In picking today's subject, when I called my PA and told my PA that I wanted to speak to the subject, this is Nigeria. It wasn't just this is Nigeria, it came with an adjunct that said, this is Nigeria, the excuse for normalized madness. I said, or you can use this is Nigeria, the excuse for normalized abominations. And she was like, oh, Faz has a song by a similar title that is, this is Nigeria. So, well, I'm something of a very, very deeply conservative person when it comes to my taste in music. And Fela, Bob Marley, the old juju music, that's about the extent of my musical exposure. And but I asked that she find the song for me, so I listened to it and I found that the gentleman was writing his music pretty much from the same place where I have been in recent times that has made that phrase, this is Nigeria, to keep popping into my consciousness. So today, I want to speak to us about the subject, this is Nigeria. There are so many things, like I said, that should have come behind that, but I think it's fine enough so far. I'm sorry, I'm not plagiarizing. I concede the fact that is the title of your song, but it's just something that came to mind. But what do I mean when I said this is Nigeria? I think it is safer to start this conversation from the standpoint of the Ghanaian president, the one that went and said, this is not Nigeria. It declared a repulsion for madness. No, 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 this is not Nigeria. Don't do that here. He was speaking to marauding Fulani herdsmen in the northern part of Ghana. This is not Nigeria. But what did he mean by that declaration? What does it mean when you say this is not Nigeria? Exactly what does it mean for it to be Nigeria or for it to be Nigeria? This is not Nigeria. This is not a place where you can act with impunity. This is not a place where the law does not matter. This is not a place where you can do things without regard to the rule of law or for law, the supremacy of life. This is not a place where you can do anyhow. That was what he was saying. This is not Nigeria. But this is Nigeria. So what does it mean for it to be Nigeria? There is a brilliant communicator with whom we have been blessed in this season. His name is Bello Galadanchi. If you are not following that cat, you ought to. And when he gets to a point in his dialogue, one of his alter egos will go, he will probably go, this is Nigeria, my friend. And Bello will go, and there is that. So this is Nigeria. What does it really mean? What does it mean? It would appear that we will need to drill down in order to have a clearer understanding of the meaning of this is Nigeria. Let's start with the way we treat time. Time is probably one of the most intangible of assets because you really only can measure it by your clock. It's almost so intangible that you do not understand its passage unless you're focused on time and season. Yorubas have this interesting way of measuring time. It says, Ìgbà ò kí ń pẹ́ lọ bí òréré, òréré ọmọ ọlọ́fin. Time tiptoes as òréré, the daughter of Olofin. It is the belief of the Yoruba that if you are not watchful of time and you do not take advantage of time and you are not careful with how you manage time, it tiptoes and time goes. Opportunities are lost and things that should be done within a time to will not get done. So Yorubas had a very, very keen understanding of the need to pay attention to time and to use it rightly. And this is the same in almost all the cultures of Africa. In fact, we're so mindful of time that there are so many of our proverbs that speaks to the importance of the passage of time and how we should take advantage of every opportunities given to us by time. Yorùbá will say ìgbà ara là ń búra ẹnìkan ò kì í bú Ṣàngó lẹ́rùn. Do what you need to do when you need to do it. You cannot possibly be planting in the dry season. You can't. This speaks to the primacy of time and timeliness in our culture. But what do you find today? What do you find? We've evolved Nigerian time, an excuse for madness. That makes it okay for us to have something scheduled to start at 12 o'clock and we start by 4. Meetings, events. Some artists actually think it's okay. In fact, I've heard of artists who got paid good money to perform at concerts who abuses the fans after coming into the arena late. What the? Think about it. So we evolved to the point where we have a uniquely silly culture that endorses the waste of time. We have Nigerian time. Oyibos will be invited to Nigerian events. The internet is replete with all kind of videos of Oyibos, both memes and reality, getting to Nigerian events at the advertised time, only to find that we have no respect for ourselves or for time. Uniquely Nigerian. Or should we speak about the Nigerian factor? The one that makes it possible for a theory to work in one geographical space but come to Nigeria to die. Should we speak about that? The Nigerian factor. What is it about Nigeria that makes it okay for us to accept madness without flinching, to normalize it by our acceptance? Think about it. What makes that so easy? Why have we become so acculturated to madness as a collective that our very reality appears to be speaking to insanity? How? How? What happened to us? Nigerian factor. So because of the Nigerian factor, we've been building a Jakarta Steel Complex for decades. Nigerian factor. Because of the Nigerian factor, we are in national debt to build a moribund rail system. Because of the Nigerian factor, it has taken us almost 20 years to resurface Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Resurface Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. What happened to us? Nigerian factor is the explanation for everything that has gone wrong with us as a collective. Nigerian factor. What is this Nigerian factor? But let's again look at us through the prism of a stranger's eyes. The line David Cameron, because I did read what Jonathan had to say in response to the lies he told in his memoir. But David Cameron said something that is pretty interesting and that is worthy of attention in dealing with this is Nigeria. He says we're fantastically corrupt. Fantastically corrupt. That was what David Cameron said. But why would he say this? Fantastically corrupt. You know what fantastic means? Unbelievable. And he's right. Painful as it is to agree with him, but he's also wrong. But let's look at it this way. So David Cameron belongs in a culture where a prime minister cannot retain his office because he lied about COVID restrictions and how he parted through COVID restrictions. Any conflict of interest of any sort would have a prime minister resign his office. Talk less of ministers or heads of agencies. The slightest whiff of scandal, they resign their offices. But our own country, our president flies around in the private jet of his best friend, whose company he awarded a no contest, no bid contract, where a kilometer of road is started at 4 billion, where land has been expropriated, and his son sits on the board of this company. But not only has the Nigerian press been largely silent, nobody thinks anything is wrong. It's only bellyachers like us that are complaining. It's fantastic, unbelievable. But is it corruption? Nah, we are not corrupt. Let's stop with all those lies. This is Nigeria. We are beyond corruption. We shouldn't call it corruption. Now, it's got nothing to do with corruption. That's not corruption. That is not corruption. And I dare say, there is no Yoruba word for corruption or Igbo word for corruption for that matter. You might begin to describe it, but nothing in our cultures prepared us for what we are witnessing today. Language is evolutionary. The Yoruba culture never expected what we are seeing in our country today. It didn't envisage Nigeria or the putrefaction that has been normalized in Nigeria. Nah, nah. Don't let nobody fool you. The Nigerian is different from the Yoruba or any of the indigenous nations that are trapped in this catastrophe. Fact of the matter is that Yorubas had a proverb or have a proverb that speaks to the root of this issue. So what's that proverb? It says, ìlú tí kò sí òfin, ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ kò sí níbẹ̀. I'm going to try my best to unbundle that proverb for you because it actually does speak succinctly to the madness that has overtaken us and that is found at the root of this is not Nigeria and this is Nigeria. And what is this? Ìlú tí kò sófin, a town devoid of laws. Ìlú tí kò sí òfin, a town, a city, a nation, an empire devoid of laws. Ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ kò sí níbẹ̀. There can be no crimes in such a place. So ìlú tí kò sófin, ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ò sí níbẹ̀. The land devoid of laws cannot have crimes. But this is very strange in Yoruba thinking. How can there be a Yoruba entity, enclave, a city, a kingdom devoid of laws? The Yorubas had evolved a highly civilized and sophisticated empire over empires long before the European evolved their democracies. We had developed highly stylized societies with systems of rules, taboos, and laws ingrained deeply into the cultures. We had almost ritualized ways of doing certain things like washing ourselves, eating, the way you keep your broom. They had all kind of taboos which were all ways of strengthening rules. So the Yoruba's consciousness could not have imagined a place devoid of laws. So the Yorubas were not talking about a place without laws. They were actually speaking to a place where the law does not rule. Yorubas would say, bá a bá ń torí ẹrú ṣòfin ká rántí ọjọ́ tí ó mọ̀ọ́mọ̀ ọba tí ó mọ̀ọ́mọ̀ joyè. If we make laws because of the slaves, we must remember the day when the children of the worthies and kings will be caught by those rules. That will tell you of an egalitarian society where before a law may be said to be law, it must have universal application, which would mean that the same law that will catch the children of the commoners will catch the children of the royals. That was the kind of society that the Yorubas had evolved. So they were not talking about a place devoid of laws. They were talking about a place where the law does not rule. And they did not evolve societies where the law did not rule. They had societies that were governed by laws. Laws governed Yoruba societies. So they were not talking about a place ungoverned by law. But they didn't have Nigeria in contemplation when they were speaking about a place ungoverned by law. But Nigeria is actually the place that they were describing. So Nigeria is not fantastically corrupt, as David Cameron stupidly said. Nah, ignorant man. Or maybe he was just being nice and he didn't want to call out what it was that he could see very clearly in our country. And what is very evident in our country is a complete and total absence of the rule of law. And that is why he wrongly imagined that we as a collective are fantastically corrupt. We are not fantastically corrupt. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of Nigerians who are languishing in jails, either awaiting trial or have been convicted for crimes that are nowhere near anything as grievous or wicked as the ones that are being committed against them every day by those who purport to rule Nigeria. So we're not fantastically corrupt. It is impunity that has overtaken our land. And this has made madness, abominations normal in the country, Nigeria. Not necessarily because the people themselves are like that, but because impunity means that there are no consequences to the actions and inactions of men and women. And in the absence of sanctions, consequences, what has happened is that we have normalized madness in our country. This is Nigeria, and it's okay for us to have almost 20 million children, largely drug addicted and slapping the street without any training, no education, nothing. They have no use to themselves, practically no use to society, giving up, thrown away by the society, walking the street. And in the same country, we're busy appropriating money to buy private jets for men who have private jets for themselves to add up to our presidential fleet. We're spending billions buying yachts. We're spending billions constructing car park. We're spending billions building presidential mansions, vice presidential mansions, renovating, and we have children slapping the streets, unemployed and unemployable, and we have no program for bringing them out of the condemned life, the condemned lives that were foisted on them as a collective. This is Nigeria. We're planting storms, and we shall reap whirlwinds the way these things are going. You want to talk about the religious hypocrisy, the lies being told from the pulpits, both in the mosques and in the churches. You want to talk about the mind-numbing lies being told in the name of God. And men and women, desperate men and women are lapping it up. This is Nigeria. You want us to talk about how words come to Nigeria to die and adopt new meanings. We want to talk about our democracy, a democracy where INEC switches off IREV. That's a democracy. People are running around preparing for off-season elections where a man without shame, Yakubu, is still the one pretending. People are talking about 2027. Yakubu is still sat there. This is Nigeria. Madness has become the norm. National grid is collapsing. Not unlike the way Bulaba himself collapsed the other day when they were celebrating the Democracy Day. Think about it. This is Nigeria. Everybody is on generator now. This is Nigeria. Band A, band B, band whatever. This is Nigeria. We have spent more money trying to generate darkness. Obasanjo's regime, I believe, spent about $16 billion to do what? But this is Nigeria. Nobody has paid for it. Nobody. Nigerians can be jesuing Charlie because of maybe about 4 or so people who were killed during the attack in France. They can be jesuing Charlie. But over 200 Nigerians were murdered when the Air Force bombed a refugee camp in Burma. The same week, Nigerians had nothing to say, largely had nothing to say about the people in Burma who just got killed. Refugees already in the land of their own birth. In their ancestral land, they were refugees. In Nigeria, they were refugees. They were killed. But Nigerians were focused on jesuing Charlie. Nigerian soldiers were slaughtered by Boko Haram, and they were being buried, I believe, in Kaduna. Buhari had time to attend party with the top echelon of the APC and government, but could not find time to attend their burial. One policeman was killed in an attack in France. One policeman. It was a supermarket. The same week, France shot down, flew his flag at half-mast, mourned that policeman. We moved on. I recently saw the Kenyan reactions to the murder of protesters by the Kenyan police. I didn't read of a single Kenyan denying that it happened. Up until today, people who should know better are still denying what happened at Lekki. But if you don't take Lekki as your measure, why not take the Kaduna State panel of inquiry, its own panel of inquiry? where it confirmed, I think it was 430 Shia were killed by Buratai's convoy. But this is Nigeria. There is always a reason to justify madness. They were Shia. They were not really Muslims. It didn't matter. Oh, the ones that Lekki toll gate, they wanted to burn down Nigeria. What did you want the government to do? There is always a reason to explain the madness that we have all become acculturated to. This is Nigeria. I could end right there, see? But then the entire purpose will be lost. This is the country that we have built, all of us as a collective. None of us are exempt. We all are guilty. We've built a mad place, sick place. We've built a really, really sick place. My wife runs a store, a food business. A Sunday, pretty much like this one, my wife went to the store in the afternoon and she happened to go into the kitchen in the store, and then she found they had fried 3 crates of eggs and cooked 10 tubers of yam. 3 crates of eggs, that's 90 eggs. There were less than 25 staff on duty on the day in question. That's over 3 eggs per person that the staff had cooked. Not even one of them thought there was something wrong with what they did. Not one believed anything was wrong with what was done. How do you explain frying 90 eggs for a meal that was going to be consumed by about 25 persons? And you know what else? There was no provision for this meal. It wasn't to the knowledge of the management. That is Nigeria. That is Nigeria. This is the country that you and I, all of us, have built. A country without standard, a place where anything goes. Anything goes. That's the country we have built. And that is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. We have to do something drastic if this must stop. Again this week, I merely come by to have a word with you. Enjoy the rest of your week and do stay blessed. God bless you all. Shalom.